the title of my slide is Past, Present, and Future Customized Oral Health. And I will mainly talk about preventive dentistry in the area of caries prevention. And then I will also talk about what we are doing research-wise and report about our research at the end of this presentation. I think Anna presented me nicely. I don't need this slide. I can move on. And today's outline is, again, Caries etiology, what we learned in the past, what we are doing now, and most importantly, what is demineralization and remineralization in preventive dentistry or for the caries. I will talk about the current systems, non-fluoride preventive care. Some of them are still on research level. And then, as I mentioned before, I will talk about new technologies, especially our peptide technology, what we have been doing at the University of Washington and the labs, also clinically. Now, let me give you a little input about the structure of the teeth. As you know, the visible portion of our teeth is the crown. It's covered with the enamel, which is the hardest tissue in the body, and with the highest mineral content, about 96%. But the invisible portion of our tooth is in the bone. It is the root portion. It's covered from the outside with cementum. The cementum is very soft and thin. It's inorganic material, is half of the enamel. And underneath the enamel and cementum, we have dentin tissue. It works as a cushion. It is a little bit stronger than cementum, not as hard as enamel. And it communicates with through the dental channels or the tubules with the pulp tissue. The living portion of our teeth has connective tissue, nerves, blood vessels, and odontoblasts. Okay, I'm gonna move my slides. It doesn't move, sorry for that. Yeah. Now, before I start, I wanna just give you some key facts from the World Health Organization. We know that from the studies, about 60 to 90% of the school children and almost 100% of the adults have dental cavities or an experience with dental cavities in the past. Now they are probably crowns or fillings or root canal treatments. It is a significant burden for our economy. When we look at the developed countries, their 5 to 10% of public health expenditure goes to oral health for traditional curative dental care. It's very important, traditional curative dental care. We are not talking about the preventive dental care. If you prevent from the disease, dental disease like caries or periodontal disease, gum disease, we don't have to spend this much money from our health, general health budget. That's very important that we have to focus on the preventive dentistry. Now, if we are going to all age, thanks to our medical providers, we are living longer, and we are also keeping our teeth longer or more teeth. Maybe 50 years ago, if you are 65, if you have teeth, you were just an exotic person because everybody was almost a dentulist. And 80 years and older group is the fastest growth of any age group. And they are not slow with their growth in their age group. And we estimate that by 2050, around 2 billion people will be age of 60 years and older worldwide. What does it mean for us? When we get older, we lose bone, and then our gums recede, our root surfaces are exposed, and all the teeth are almost worn down, and the treatments are very complex. The right material to treat these patients are limited, and their longevity is very questionable. And we have to deal with these issues. Because of that, I always think preventive. If we prevent the teeth or the oral environment from the disease, we can treat them easily without getting in a complex situation with their dental or oral health. Now, when we look at the etiology of the caries or the cavities, we already identified 150 years ago. Dr. Miller said it's has two stages. He told us this chemical phase, it's the demineralization of the inorganic structure by acid, and also parasitic phase. We didn't know bacteria in those times because we didn't have the gadgets and the tools, and it's dissolution of the organic structure by digestive action. Now, it has been 150 years ago almost, and we have done nothing instead of just action and reaction kind of dental treatment. We see a cavity, we restore the cavity with the available materials, and then we see the patient again, another cavity. It's a cycle, it goes on and on. And in the 50s and 60s, we were better equipped with our tools. We identified the bacteria which causes the caries, thanks to the hamsters, poor hamsters, I'm sorry to say that. And they said that there are two factors to have caries. You need to have host, which is the tooth. You need the bacteria or plaque or biofilm, and the substrate is usually short chain carbohydrates. It is interesting that when these three factors are coming together, we have the caries. But when we look at the biggest circle around this, we see saliva. You know, we know that saliva is very important for prevention, but we don't do anything to keep saliva healthier. Now, when we saliva flow rate, how much saliva we produce daily, also saliva buffering capacity, what does it mean? How, when after I eat, my pH goes down by 4.5, according to your diet. If you're on Mountain Dew or some kind of soda, it can go all the way to pH 3 or 2. It's very acidic. And but the saliva's job is to elevate the acidic environment to almost neutral area, which is the buffering capacity. It is the saliva's job for us to buffer the acidic environment, to protect the teeth from acid attack. And it's very important. But we always in our in practices, we are actually not paying attention to saliva. I know one of my colleagues, Dr. Jeffries, talked 2 weeks ago about saliva. I think it is the most important part of our oral health, especially for the preventive oral health, saliva. Now, these three factors are there. We know that we need the tooth, we need the bacteria, we need the short chain carbohydrates. But when we look at that with some kind of comparable populations or some in the same family, we have the same factors, but we have different oral caries history. Some of them get lots of caries, some of the in the same household don't get the same amount of the caries. What's going on? Or I get more caries, you don't get less caries. Are these three factors are always working for us? Maybe or maybe not. Then in the 2000s or slightly before 2000, we focused on the modifying factors. You know, that was very good, because when we look at the modifying factors, we know that those three factors, the bacteria, the tooth, the short chain carbohydrates, but everybody doesn't react the same way. What are these modifying factors? We look at the socioeconomic status of the patients, their previous dental history, oral hygiene care, how they do oral hygiene at their home, medical conditions, their physical conditions, the medications they take, they can cause dry mouth and so on. Most importantly, we look at their diet, and so we started to customize or individualize the treatment, especially the preventive treatment for our patients. Now, we talk about the bacteria. The fancy name of the plaque or the flora is in the oral environment, we call it biofilm. And the biofilm, as you see on the right-hand side, It is a community. As we live in the cities, in different communities, there are different species in the biofilm, and they exchange information. They exchange information through their genetic exchange. If one bacteria species gets antibiotic resistant, they teach the other bacteria species. They get also they learn from the bacteria, they have the resistance to antibiotics. One bacteria species waste can be nutrition to another bacteria species. But when I say a biofilm or bacteria, we should also distinguish the good ones and the bad ones. We need the good bacteria in our mouth, in a healthy saliva. If we keep the saliva healthy, non-acidic, elevate the pH to the neutral zone, we will host or give a community or living environment to the healthy bacteria. We will eliminate the bad bacteria, because there's always a race in the human body between the good ones and the bad ones. If you don't have any bacteria, you will have like the GI issues, you will have fungus infection, and so we need these good bacteria in our mouth. But if you lose the fight against the against the bad bacteria, and then they come and then they start to colonize on the tooth surface undisturbed. What does it mean undisturbed? We don't do our daily care, we don't brush our teeth, and they calcify, they cause calculus or tartar, starting from the a coronal part of the tooth around the tooth neck, and they move, if you don't take care of the issue, they move below the gum line, then they start to cause the periodontal disease or gum diseases. We need to be very careful when we understand the bacteria, and we need to accommodate the good bacteria in our oral environment. I call these good bacteria as the foundational bacteria, which are like the pyramids of in Egypt, and they are going to be always there. We cannot eliminate these bacteria, foundational bacteria. But if we don't do anything, the orange or the red colored bacteria will move and take the space, the environment from the good bacteria, and they cause all these caries or the periodontal disease. We know that if we protect teeth from caries, we will also aid for the protection of our gums and gum diseases like gingivitis and periodontitis. Now, I said the saliva is very important, and we need to pay attention to saliva to make it healthier. And when we look at the saliva flow rate, we see that when we sleep, we have the least amount of saliva flow rate or production. Because of that, when my patients come to my practice, when I have a conversation about their daily habits of brushing, I ask them, how often do you brush your teeth, and when is the last brushing? I'm always interested in the last brushing. If it's before the bedtime, it's ideal, because I will remove all these fermentable carbohydrates, short chain carbohydrates, give a clean environment. The acidity of the saliva is elevated, and saliva is buffers the acidity nicely. And then I will create an environment for the good bacteria while I'm sleeping from midnight to 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. That 5, 6 hours, I give some break to saliva, and then create a nice environment for the good bacteria. They don't have the fermentable carbohydrates for the bad bacteria. It's very important that we need to brush our teeth, clean our teeth before we go to bed, because we produce very little saliva while we are sleeping. It is the healthiest, the most efficient prevention in our home care daily. Now, a healthy saliva, when we eat sugary stuff, should then in the healthy saliva, the pH drops immediately below 6. And then they did some studies. It's a very old study. We learned from them a lot in the 40s. They did it. They gave one group the pears, the other group has the pears and cheese, and they compared the buffering capacity of saliva. How soon is the saliva or buffering the saliva, the acidity? And then they found out 20-30 minutes will be enough for the saliva to get back to the normal pH levels that we have in healthy saliva, healthy oral flora, and healthy teeth at the end of the day. Why cheese? Because calcium is very important. We need calcium and phosphate, other minerals in our saliva to elevate the pH level, because the concentrations of the calcium and phosphate is very important. If you don't have calcium and phosphate, the saliva will be not saturated. It will be in the acidic area for a long time. Now, we know that when the pH drops to 5.5, then we see demineralization in the coronal portion where the enamel is. But if we have a root exposure and gum exposure, and the root surfaces are visible to us, and that demineralization starts around 6.5, which is very close to the neutral zone. Because of that, when we see root exposure, we need to be very careful with our oral hygiene, with our dental visits, and the mechanical removal of the plaque or biofilm, however we want to call it. It's very important that we need to be very, very careful, especially with the root surface exposure. But this remineralization has a balance in a healthy oral environment or healthy saliva. You know, during the demineralization, let's say I have my lunch, and then I had a can of soda with sugar or no sugar, doesn't make any difference because they have a very low pH, around 3 to 4 pH, and my saliva is very acidic, and then I will lose some minerals or ions from the surface of my tooth. But when we buffer, when the saliva buffers the pH to the neutral zone, then the calcium and phosphate ions, the minerals will be added to the tooth surface. This balance is happening actively, continuously 24 hours in our mouth with the healthy saliva. But if the saliva is unhealthy, we stay in the acidic area, and then demineralization overcomes the remineralization. Then we start to see the first signs of the dental caries and other ailments. Now, saliva can be a protective factor or can be a risk factor. You know, a healthy saliva is always protective, but when you look at the subnormal saliva, I have a very little saliva. I take medication, reduces my saliva, or a cancer treatment, then it can cause also saliva reduction. All these things, if my saliva is subnormal, it's a risk factor, and my balance from remineralization goes to the demineralization. It starts the caries progression. Now, calcium and phosphate minerals are very important during the demineralization. Natural or pathological demineralization, we will lose those calcium and phosphate. But if the saliva is healthy, if it's saturated, the calcium and phosphate minerals will be put back onto the tooth surface again. Now, when we talk about demineralization, we need to also pay attention to our food industry and what we eat. We don't make our food anymore. We don't have the backyard or some animals running in our backyards we make our food like 50 years ago or so. We are industrialized. We are a modern society. We don't have time to grow our food. We have to buy our food. What happens with the food industry? They use a lot of lactic acid in food. And the lactic acid is the predominant end product from sugar metabolism. And that is considered as the main acid involved in the caries formation. You know, lactic acid in food pH is around 2.4. Lemon juice compared to that one is 2. And if you drink soft drinks or fruit juices, you will have lactic acid because of it gives a mild taste to your drink. If you had a salad this lunchtime or going to have a salad, it gives you the taste, mild taste. Also, it's a preservative, safety, microbial stability. It's very important. Or if you are in snacking, candies or gummy bears, and so you will see that you will have lots of lactic acid to taste improvement, quality, textures, whatever. And but lactic acid is in our processed food. It means that we need to work with the food industry also to change their way to make food, because we need to modernize the food industry, not just trying to do everything on our own in our professions or our daily life as individuals. We need to be also very careful with our diet nowadays. And organic, not organic, if the lactic acid is there, it doesn't make a difference. Organic is not always healthy for you guys. Just a side note. Now, when we have the patients in our chairs and we look at their modifiable or non-modifiable behavior changes, what we can do for them. Can I modify the diet of the patient? Can I modify their oral health care at home? Those are the questions I ask myself. And when we look at the remineralization at the patient level, as I mentioned, we look at the lifestyle of our patients. If the patient is a snacker, snacks all the time, and then something is on the table, or sip on the coffee or the little soda a couple of hours long because they like the fizziness or the freshness of whatever they drink, that's not helping saliva, because you are putting saliva in the acidic environment constantly. You're not giving enough time saliva to rebuffer itself to a neutral zone. You keep the saliva in the acidic environment, and then that acid will, it's a weak acid, lactic acid, will go and then attack the tooth surface. It's a coronal. On the root surface, it's more risky. Then we'll remove the minerals from the tooth surface. And we need to talk and then with our patients understand their lifestyle, especially their diet. Also at the oral level, we are looking at always the saliva health, saliva pH, and how the buffering capacity of saliva. Is it ideal, maximum 20 to 30 minutes, or is taking longer, or it's always an acidic? Those are the things we are interested at the oral level. At the lesion level of the tooth surface, we want also calcium and phosphate and other minerals accumulate on the tooth surface. If we have a lesion, let's say it's an initial caries, as we call them, white spot lesion, they are just white, chalky looking small patches. You need to have a clean access on those surfaces, initial caries, that minerals can go and penetrate those lesions at the initial level, that we can repair the initial caries from demineralization to remineralization. These are very important things we look at our patients when they are in our chairs. Now, there are so many remineralization technologies. I will give you some of the technology information in a short way. And when we look at the non-fluoride remineralization technologies, I'm not talking about fluoride today, because fluoride is the main remineralization agent nowadays. And then we know that the caries numbers dropped after the usage of fluoride in our toothpaste or in our community water and so. And then there are some different systems for fluoride delivery. We are not talking about that one, but I'm talking about this non-fluoride remineralization technologies. We have biomimetic systems. For example, on the market, we have Crodent Repair, or the Apagard toothpaste. One of them is a peptide, the other one is a nanohydroxyapatite. They didn't take the market like other toothpaste They are at their initial phase, but they are very promising technologies. And we have so many not commercial biomimetic systems. I don't want to go there, but it's on my slide. But mostly we use a lot of fluoride boosters, calcium phosphate systems. We have so many products outside. They are working very well. For a short term, the problem with all these fluoride boosters and also biomimetic system, P11-4 peptides or nanohydroxyapatite, they are transient. They give you some relief. If you have, for example, if you have tooth sensitivity or so, they give you some relief, then they come back because they are precipitation of these minerals. There's no real interaction with the tooth surface, and then they are not long-lasting or permanent systems. But they are doing a really good job, especially combined with the fluoride. We have the GC toothpaste or MI paste, if you heard it, is the most common. We have recaldent systems, Climpro, Enamelon, or we have the polyphosphate system, Oral-B's Pro Expert toothpaste. And a lot of also natural products, Gamarabic, Galachinensis, Hesperidin, kind of, I can add to the Beeswax and other natural products. Not really available. Maybe you can find them on Amazon and so, but their clinical studies are not well designed. We don't have enough or good clinical evidence. They are working very well, but they are also promising products. I wouldn't just eliminate them immediately. I'm a believer of the nature. Now, when we look at the tooth mousse from they have the improved delivery and release of calcium and phosphate ions to the oral environment. That's their goal or their claim. But the limitation of these products are they don't have the functional mineral microlayer, and they are not integrated into the tooth tissue, enamel or dentin or cementum layers. Because of that, it makes these products transient products, not long-lasting products. And we have also Novamin technology, Sensodyne Repair and Protect has this system. I like this because Novamin, because they raise the pH first, because they elevate the pH of the saliva, and after the pH is elevated, and then calcium and phosphate delivered to the tooth surface. But as they say, it's a precipitation of these calcium phosphate complexes. Again, they are working very well for short term, but long-term, long-lasting evidence we don't have from these products yet. By the way, I have no financial interest if I'm mentioning any product or any company here. I have zero financial interest with those products. Now, arginine is as an amino acid. We have the arginine also in our clinics. It was marketed or approved for the dental sensitivity. Now it's promoted as caries preventive agent. What it does actually, arginine is metabolized by a specific bacteria. It's an arginolytic bacteria. It produces ammonia-like substance, and which increases again the pH in the oral biofilm, also in the saliva, by increasing the pH, saliva pH, and then the calcium and phosphate will be delivered to the tooth surface. And Tom started with a non-fluoride toothpaste. This is a non-fluoride, fluoride-free. If you are going to use this one, please don't rely on this one, just your toothpaste. Always combine with a fluoride toothpaste. And the clinical studies show that they are more efficient with the low concentration fluoride toothpaste. STF is not exciting biomimetic material, but it was approved recently by the FDA, again, for the dental sensitivity. but it's used a lot of label for caries arrest. It's commonly used actually in lots of practices now. What it does, again, it increases the pH of the biofilm, reduces through that reduces the dentin demineralization, has antimicrobial action against the cariogenic bacteria, but they can stain, especially in the aesthetic area, visible area, the surfaces you applied this STF or silver diamond fluoride, the black stains because of the silver phosphate precipitation. But it's not a modern technology. I wouldn't use it. We use it as an emergency cases. You know, we have very old patients, they have root caries or initiation of the root caries. We apply the STF, it works nicely, but we need to be very careful when we are applying this STF material. Now, a new remineralization technology is biomimetic technology, is a peptide technology I'm going to talk about as the last part of my presentation, our biomimetic dental care at the University of Washington with my team from engineering department and School of Dentistry. Our goal is to work on the preventive, restorative, therapeutic, and cosmetic dental products with our peptide technology. And how this technology works, what we did, amylogenin is the tooth-forming protein. We know that, everybody knows that. And then instead of working with protein, we are working the parts of the peptide. These functional parts of the proteins are called peptides. And then if you have a protein 100 200 amino acid long, you have so many billions of options to find out the functional portion of this protein. Thanks to the computational technologies and so the work could be done in decades. We can do in a couple of months or so. And then we were able to identify 7 different functional peptides from the amylogenin tooth-forming protein of the protein, which is amylogenin. We were able to find a peptide which was able to add new mineral layer, which is functional, and then integrated with the tooth surface, not a precipitation after 15-20 minutes of application daily. Then we started to think about what can we do with this technology. The first thing is, okay, we need to treat the cavities, because this peptide is very good at delivering calcium and phosphate from the saliva to the tooth surface, or if you add some additional calcium and phosphate, it's very efficient to carry this calcium and phosphate onto the tooth surface. Because of the FDA regulations and so, we also found out while we are doing our bench studies, while this peptide is remineralizing the tooth surfaces on the in the bench studies, we also found out that because of the character of the mineral color, it's white, it whitens the teeth. As you see here on your left-hand side, if you use a whitening strip, the whitening is this much compared to the left-hand side of the tooth as the control side. I'm sorry, I'm too fast or too reverse. And if you use the clinical gel, which is usually used to take home or professional, they can be up to 30%, 40% of the hydrogen peroxide. Is very caustic. Whitening strip is 9.5 hydrogen peroxide. And do you know the Clorox, the cleaning Clorox concentrations are around 6%. We are putting a high concentration of hydrogen peroxide to whiten our teeth, but what they do, they subtract the tooth mineral, then make them cleaner by removing the ions from the surface of the tooth. With our remineralizing lozenge, the color change in our bench studies was comparable with the high concentration clinical gel, the whitening, as you see on the left-hand side. I don't know what my mouse is doing here, but I should stop maybe. it was comparable with the high concentration of whitening gel. Instead of subtracting the minerals from the surface, it was layering new layer of mineral, and the mineral layer is wider, the mineral is wider. It was actually whitening the teeth. It's in a healthy way. We did the clinical study, we finished it a month ago, and then we saw that in our clinical study, the whitening is not as effective as we thought, like the bench studies. And we are working now on a new formulation, a gel formulation, that the patients can have the gel trays. If you are if you had one in your life, you know, whitening gel trays or some mouth guard kind of appliance, you can apply inside of it. You can carry it a couple of hours, or take it while you're sleeping and use it while you're sleeping. That we can probably have the contact area longer compared to our clinical study, and then we can probably achieve the whitening better with this technology compared to the existing whitening technologies available on the market. But the bench studies are promising, and the clinical study didn't give us a lot of whitening effect as we expected, but we are changing the formulation now. But while we are changing the formulation, just gel formulation, we said, okay, if we know that from our clinical study, we also did look at the tooth structure. We have the appliances delivered to our patients, study patients. They carry those appliances every day, 1 hour with our peptide system. And after 14 days, we took the appliances, we look at those appliances, we saw that it was mineralizing like in the bench studies on the tooth surface. That's great. And then the first thing is that came to our mind, we might probably work on the new formulation of whitening gel. While it whitens, it can also cure the cavities, also cures the hypersensitivity, because we were able to show with our clinical study, with our appliances, by the patients carried for 14 days, an hour a day, these peptide mineralizes those tooth buttons, and then that mineralization goes in deeper to the dentin tubules. That is the treatment of the hypersensitivity. That was very exciting. Now we are working on that system. Also, we tested this peptide. Okay, if we have a gum recession, can I have the new tissue growth on the root surfaces after I lose all my gum because of the recession? And we worked on the root surfaces. It's a bench study. And we were able to show that on the new mineralized surfaces with our new technology, compared to the control without any peptide application, the cell growth, the periodontal ligament cells, their growth is way higher than compared, almost triple than the control without peptide treatment. These are all very exciting studies. We also look at the chemical characterization, and it was very comparable. The hardness of this mineral layer is comparable to the dentin hardness, which is also the composite fillings, but your white fillings have the same hardness, but it's not as hard as the enamel, but it is, the hardness is between the dentin and enamel, and that's also very promising because we have been using these white fillings how many years, and then they have been resisting to the extreme harsh oral environment very well. And our future goal, it can take a decade or so, the gel or the remineralization, the initial cavity treatment with our peptide, we are sure that it will happen in a short time period. But this biogenic dental fillers, we are working on them as well. Because we are going to combine the artificial intelligence and now the digital technology, and so making these biogenic dental fillers and gluing biogenically to the tooth instead of putting any synthetic white resin filler like composite fillings or mercury containing amalgam restorations, we can also fill the teeth naturally. But it's a long-term study, and then I think we will be successful in a decade or a little bit more than a decade, but it's where our prior results are very promising now. Now, what is the future of dentistry? In order to customize everything according to our needs, and nowadays everything is going through the artificial intelligence. Now in dentistry, we use artificial intelligence actually easing up our paperwork now, but we can use in the future, it's getting more and more available for us that we can customize the treatment according to patient needs. We can check their patients' daily oral care through their smart toothbrushes or gadgets, probably attached to a application on a smartphone. We can do that also, not in our school, but in almost 8,000 students around the world are trained in the preclinical environment before they see the patient with augmented and virtual reality. It's like a real surgery room. The students are trained. I hope our school will get it soon because we have a new center. We are hopeful we'll get soon as well. And we are using intraoral cameras and scanners, digital dentistry, computer-aided design, and 3D printing. We make now computer-aided manufacturing dentures and crowns. That's common thing. Almost any practice or any dental lab, especially in our area, are using this system. And teledentistry is taking its spot in the healthcare. Again, combined with the smartphone applications, we are doing our baby steps. COVID was bad, but we learned from COVID that we have to go to the teledentistry direction. It probably gave us that idea. And regenerative dentistry, the whole tooth, making whole tooth. Some research institutions, they are working over the years. It's a very inspiring and very promising results that are coming, but we are not fully there. And gene editing should be also a future of dentistry, especially the cancer treatment. One of my research projects outside of this remineralization, I also work with also different engineers. We are looking at the volatile organic compounds in the breath, like the gases in the breath, to have the signature of these gases, volatile organic compounds, to identify the diseases for diagnostic purposes non-invasively. We are making now an analyzer. We started during the COVID as a COVID analyzer. We are going to also start a clinical study. Our clinical study is approved by the ethics committee or the IRB from the University of Washington. We are very excited about what's coming to dentistry, and then I think that it will be more preventive, more customized, and then will be a healthy oral environment. Healthy oral environment means that healthy gateway to the whole body. And then I hope that we will elevate with the preventive dentistry the health of our population as well. I think that's my presentation. I hope I didn't go over my time. It's 45 minutes. And I want to thank you all for being here, spending your time with me. Also, I want to thank all the scientists, not all my group. I'm so grateful to our scientists at the University of Washington and any scientists working on for betterment of our lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dogan. It's so, interesting just to see over time how much progression we've had. And it is exciting to hear you talk about some of those future interventions and those clinical studies as well. So we have time here for questions if folks want to send in the chat, or you can raise your hand as well. Savina just asked a question that I was curious about as well, is for clinical trials at the UW School of Dentistry, how do folks get involved in that?
We have to write first the inclusion-exclusion criteria, and then we have the proposal. We go to our IRB, we get the approval, and then we can post this. We can post like flyers. We can post on social media, and then also they can follow the UW News, Dental Alumni News, to be involved or participate in those studies. There's not a I cannot say you are going to be a part of the study because each study has their own inclusion and exclusion criteria. They are usually very strict criteria.
Yeah,
But thank you for your interest, Sabina.
Yeah, we'll make sure to stay tuned. So I had a question, when you were talking about the remineralizing lozenge, are those on the market? Like, is that something we can purchase, or is that what was still in trial?
Not yet. As I said, the remineralizing lozenge, we need to get the medical device approval from the FDA. We are actively working on that one. And then, but through the clinical study, we are starting a new formulation, gel formulation.
Okay.
And that will also be on the market. But we might probably put that lozenge on the market as a supplement or semi-cosmetic because it gives the nice shine to the teeth, but doesn't change a lot of color clinical studies. We might see in a year or so a lozenge on the market.
That's great.
Hopefully.
And so can you also speak to what about, the relationship between hydration and saliva pH? Is that beneficial for for saliva pH?
That is a wonderful question. Actually, it was in my mind to talk about the water hydration. Hydration is very important, especially when you drink water or you swish your mouth with just water. You elevate your pH immediately. That's very important. Some waters, just salt waters, they have very low pH. There was a list I saw that some of them are very low pH, but our regular tap water or so, if you just swish your mouth, if you don't want to drink it, just swish your mouth, you immediately get rid of the acid. You just then you will elevate the pH. It will help a lot. I'm for hydration all the time. Yeah, that's
great.
very good reminder. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions come in, but I had a few on my list. So
Sure.
I can keep asking mine if folks want to stick around. Kevin just asked, what toothpaste is best to remineralize?
Yeah, this is a tricky question. I use all kinds of toothpaste from Crest, Colgate to Sensodyne or Pro Enamel. As long as I brush my teeth before bedtime, it has some fluoride in it. That's the best toothpaste. The timing and the fluoride content is important.
That's great. Now the questions are popping in. Nazarene asks, what are the best times to brush the teeth in addition to, as you said, right before bed?
Before bed is good after meals, but just wait. If you have, like you had today, a salad and a soda, it shouldn't have sugar, but it's still acidic. We always recommend our patients wait like 20-30 minutes and then brush your teeth. That's the ideal way. Mornings when you get up, you can brush your teeth, get rid of if there's some acid there, get rid of the acid before your breakfast. Also in between your meals, if you are snacking, you can swish your mouth with water. We like to use solution, the baking soda, or baking powder, sorry. You can dilute it. It's a higher pH. It will also help the saliva to elevate the pH. But please don't use baking soda to brush your teeth. It's very abrasive. Okay, I can use it as a mouthwash, but not as a toothpaste.
Good to know. Kind of along those lines, someone's asking, are there benefits to using a toothpaste like Parodontax over regular Crest, or is kind of the same criteria you mentioned before?
The clinically or scientifically, we don't have any difference. But when you go shopping, you have two products. You make your choices. One is cheaper than the other. One is made with ingredients are differently. But all these toothpaste are on the market as long as they have fluoride and no abrasive materials like charcoal was very common a couple of years ago. Any abrasive material, if they have abrasive material in your toothpaste, stay away from them. If it's non-fluoride toothpaste, I will stay away from them because the fluoride, what you get from the toothpaste is not a high concentration fluoride. There's no toxicity. There's no evidence clinically and scientifically for you guys. And just the ingredient, what kind of ingredient, high quality ingredients you want to have it, no foaming agents, most of the sodium lauryl sulfate, they have it. If they have it, maybe you might stay away from the toothpaste. You go to maybe Sensodyne, Proenamel, they don't have the sodium lauryl sulfate. If you are not, you don't want any foaming agent in your mouth.
And so a follow-up question to that earlier about how often and when to brush your teeth is, why do we wait 20 to 30 minutes after meals?
Because this is acidic, and then we have the loss of ion. We want to wait for the saliva, elevate the pH. We get rid of the acidic. If you go mechanically in an acidic environment, you remove more ions on a microscopic level. Make sense? This is an acidic environment, it's already removing ions, and then you already brush your teeth mechanically, you're removing more ions. It's better to wait 20 to 30 minutes, gives the saliva the time to elevate the buffering capacity, elevate the pH, then it's not very acidic, then you can go ahead and brush your teeth. You still can brush your teeth, don't get me wrong, but if you're brushing it, don't be harsh, too harsh. Okay, or you can use a mouthwash, or as I said, you can have the baking soda, baking powder solution to elevate the pH. That will help also.
Thank you for distinguishing that. So one question that came in that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet is the UW dentistry faculty practice, and how there was a question about how to get care at UW. Are you able to kind of speak to the difference between, going to a dentist like yourself at the faculty practice versus potentially being a patient at the school with the students?
We have different clinics. We have student clinics, we have residency clinics, we have faculty clinics. You can get care in all those clinics. You don't have any restrictions. There's a misunderstanding in the population. I need to be very complex to be at the UW Dental School as a patient. No, we are open to public. We accept all the patients. Yes, we are working with a lot of complex cases, but we like to see also patients, they come for their regular care in our student clinic, residency clinics, also in our faculty practices.
That was great, thank you. And we can share out an email to everyone as well with information on the faculty practice. All right, lots of great questions coming in. Another question is, how long does it take for the teeth to get remineralized once proper treatment is received?
And this question, I understand the proper treatment, like proper care, I think.
Like it says once proper remineralization treatment is received.
With our technology, we can have 1 micron every 15-20 minutes. If we have that technology marketed, then it can aid 1 micron every 15-20 minutes. The lozenge technology was that we wanted to look at the whitening, also remineralization effect. We asked the patients to use the lozenge, suck on it 15 to 20 minutes daily. And then we kept the appliances in their mouth 1 hour. After 14 days, we took them out, and then we saw that the mineralization layers, it means that they are mineralizing around 1 micron each application. So pretty fast, then it sounds. Pretty fast, but 1 micron, you see the remineralization with your bare eyes when it's around a hair thin, which is 80 to 100 micron thick. Okay. But we don't want a lot of remineralization because we want to keep the tooth structure and form ideal. We don't want to add more material on it. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Another question is just kind of around, lots of questions around best practices. Should we use, soft or hard toothbrushes? Is there a preference there? That's a very good question. And then we have been fighting with this information. No hard brushes, please. No abrasiveness in your mouth, please. Soft brushes are doing very well the job. And you have a fluoride containing toothpaste, and a soft brush will do the job for us. Thank you so much for asking. I don't know. I cannot read I'm trying to read the question. I want to call the person by name, but thank you so much for asking this question.
Yeah. Thank you, Grace. Savina wants to know, what is oil pulling, and is this recommended? And I've never heard that before.
The oil pulling is, I think it was fancy in the 90s. I know that when I went to and then waited in a waiting room, and then some people were doing, they're swishing their mouth with the oil, like sunflower or oil or something. The idea is that when to cover the tooth surfaces like with pellicle, you know, it has the protein layer. It's just after we clean the teeth, like you saw your hygienist, and then everything is pristine and clean, and then the bacteria will colonize in 5 to 20 minutes, the good ones there. But the idea of the oil pulling is it will aid the pellicle to accommodate more healthy bacteria than the bad bacteria, but there's no clinical evidence or scientific evidence on oil pulling. It was a big in 90s especially, but I think Savina, you have always really good, interesting questions. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't think so. It harms anyone. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But there's no evidence it aids anything for our tooth. Maybe it removes by swishing, you know, the back and forth, the pressure, maybe a little bit, if there's a plaque or so. But the idea was to aid to the tooth surface to welcome the good bacteria and then get rid of the bad bacteria. As I said, in the oral environment, it's a war zone between the good ones and the bad ones. We have very little amount of the bad ones, and they are very quiet when we do all the things right. But if we don't do that, if we don't brush our teeth, it's acidic all the time. They take over the spot from the good ones. And then because of that, this is also very harsh environment, oral environment. The temperature change. We eat an ice cream, then drink a cup of coffee. Can you imagine the temperature change? It's very harsh. And not only the acid, the temperature-wise, it's a very harsh environment. Because of that, we are very careful with our oral environment, keeping the good bacteria and keeping the bad bacteria in their area. They don't take over the good bacteria or the environment from the good bacteria. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, it's just in hearing you speak about lactic acid, it's one of those things, you know, we know processed foods have a lot of additives that aren't great for us, but I hadn't ever thought of lactic acid in that way. Mostly, you know, we often think of that in terms of
it tastes good,
exercise and muscle formation. So interesting. Yeah. We did have a question. I think this is the last one we have time for. It's just in response to talking about charcoal, is if you're not using it abrasively, just putting it on the teeth, is that okay? And is there even evidence that it can help with teeth whitening?
No, I can say no. I'm sorry. Charcoal, it's very abrasive. You're using a sandpaper on your teeth, and please stay away from charcoal on your teeth. And we don't. Luckily, we don't hear a lot of charcoal applications. It was, I think, during COVID time it came, and a wave, and then all the dentists, we were so scared what's going to happen with the abrasion or worn dentition. We don't want to see that. Okay, if you guys are whitening your teeth with the regular whitening agents also, please do 1 week whitening, maybe 2 weeks at most with the strips, and then wait at least 3 to 6 months. I know some of our patients want to apply them daily. Please don't do that.
Oh, that's good to know. There was, if you have time, there was one more question that
I have time.
I think would be great. Thank you. Nazrin asks, is having healthy teeth covered with composite for aesthetic purposes safe? And then my kind of follow-up with that is, can you speak to, you know, maybe is the biogenic dental filler in the future going to make it more safe?
If your tooth is healthy, Nasrin, and you have some malformation, and it's not aesthetically pleasing when you smile, or you don't find your smile aesthetically pleasing, we can do that because we are not removing any tooth structure. We are adding on top of it. It's additive. Yeah, you can use that one, and not you can use that one. You can have that filling, or we call it veneering. We call it composite veneer. It is done commonly, and it works very well. It is not invasive. It's an additive treatment, and then if it is safe. Yes, you can do that, Nasrin. And then biogenic dental filler, we are thinking now in a box form biogenic. We don't know yet for on the surface, but our remineralization peptide anyway does on the tooth surface all over a new layer. I don't know if we need that one in the future if we come that point. Yeah.
No, thank you. It's all very interesting. Just echoing, all those messages in the chat. This was such a wonderful and informative presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for spending your lunchtime with me. And I know a couple of you, my colleague, Dr. Shore is here. Lori, we worked together for a long time. Hello again. And Anna, and thank you so much for hosting me here. I really enjoyed the session, and especially the questions.
Yeah, it's always great to see.
We should have a meeting with the physicians, dietitians, dentists, as like a round table kind of discussion.
That's a great idea.
It will be excellent.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea.
Because we need to educate the professionals also. We need to educate each other. That will be great. Yeah,
everything's connected. So I'll definitely be in touch. For those who are still with us, we did record today, so we'll get that up on our YouTube. And we also recorded a few weeks ago, as Dr. Dogan mentioned, we did a session on saliva and what it means for oral health and overall health. So I can share that recording via email as well. So thank you all. I hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you all. Thank you.